Okay, so now Baron Coleman is going to explain come on.
Talking to a citizen journalist, an InfoWars reporter, and she's going to be asking the question here. What is it? I can't remember his name. Harrison something. What is it, Harrison, that bothers you so much about this story? Harrison's been giving her hell on X. Obviously, InfoWars in general has been giving her hell on X. So let's look. What is it, Harrison, that bothers you so much about this story? Let me know if you have trouble hearing.
So, Harrison, if you want to unmute yourself and jump in, that would be great.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I guess my whole thing is, why does this meeting even matter? Like, what is the actual claim that's being made here? That's been my confusion the whole point, the whole time, is like, okay, let's say that there's absolute proof, photographic evidence that everything Mitch Snow says is true. Like, who cares? I mean, what does that prove? What is the actual accusation? Who do you think was conspiring with who to do what?
Yeah.
And I think obviously the name of the episode was, the day before Charlie Kirk was murdered. The insinuation is that this was a assassination planning meeting, which I don't even see any evidence of that. And then people I'm arguing with online are saying, no, this has nothing to do with the assassination.
Yeah.
So, I guess, if the space is why this matters, why does Fort Huacachuca even matter? Like, what is the claim being made? I still don't even understand that.
All right, let me answer. Now, she gives a great answer, and I'm not knocking her by answering it separately. But let me answer this the way I can real quick. Because before I got into talk radio, one of the things I did was I would listen to callers ask questions to the host, and then I would mute the host and I would answer as if I was the host. So let me go back in time, 25 years, back to the beginning of this century. And let me play this. Harrison Smith, I've learned, is his name. Harrison Smith, journalist at InfoWars, citizen journalist at InfoWars, 8th generation Texan, if his X account is to be believed. He asks, why does this matter? Why are we even talking about this? She was polite. I almost got my bad cop hat out and put it on. Harrison, I hope you're listening. And if you're not, I hope someone sends this to you. Here's why it matters. A national treasure was neutralized in broad daylight. We don't know how it happened, but we know the story we've been given is not true. Because we've been told he was shot in the neck with a 30-06. That's impossible. That hasn't happened. We know for sure that hasn't happened. And so it raises the issue. How did he die? How did he die? If he wasn't shot in the neck with a 30-06 and there's no allegation that any other gun was involved, how did he pass away? What happened? How did he get killed? It's in the context of that a rando comes along and says, wait a minute. I was at an intelligence base the day before Charlie Kirk got killed. This is the Mitch Snow story. I was at an intelligence base the day before, and you'll never guess what I saw. I saw a guy who looks just like Brian Harpole coming out of a meeting with a bunch of lieutenant colonels and higher. It's unbelievable. You should have seen the collection of brass in this meeting. It was top notch. It looked like the Pentagon was meeting live in Arizona. Well, you got to start to establish a few things. And so Candace, before bringing this to our attention, before talking to anybody about it, she looked in and said, well, prove you were even there. Prove you were even there. So she does. And he sends pictures. He sends videos. He gives her receipts. And he establishes a fairly credible story about having been there. He gives her details. Now keep in mind, the details he gave her, he did not back up at the time, such as the police were called. Like he didn't provide, I don't think, a police report at that time. But he said the police were called. And that's important. I'll come back to that in a second. But he identifies, I was in this building over here. I stayed at this hotel right here. Here's my receipt. And he puts forth enough information that at least it becomes credible that he was there. Now, Harrison, I want to ask you as an InfoWars reporter. Let's say you had information from Butler, Pennsylvania. June or was it July of 2024 when Donald Trump was buzzed in the ear? You had information from Butler, Pennsylvania. A random guy calls you and he says, Harrison, I've got a lead. I don't know if there's anything to this or not. But the night before I was in Butler, Pennsylvania, the night before Donald Trump was taken down. And I know there was this high-level meeting, and it was full of top brass. They were all meeting at this building just off of Butler, Pennsylvania. Just off of there, there was this building, and it had all these government cars there. And I swear I saw someone close to the president. I saw J.D. Vance coming out of that meeting. Well, that's, you know, considering J.D. Vance was then named the vice president like a week later, or the vice presidential candidate like a week later, that would be relevant, right? And so you might say, well, prove you were there. Show me you were there. Do you have receipts? Do you have video? Do you have audio? Do you have photography? And he sends you all this stuff, and he proves he was there, and he's making this claim. And in addition to J.D. Vance, he says, you know, I saw somebody else there. I saw, I don't know. It's hard because he's the president, so it's hard to make this comparison. But I saw members of his Secret Service staff. I didn't even know they were members of his Secret Service staff. But then when I saw that he was shot the next day, and I saw who picked him up, I saw that guy that picked him up, and he was at that meeting too. So it was him, and it was another one of the friends. And so if you, Harrison, get this call, are you going to say, no, I don't think I'm going to run with this, because you can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt? If this went to court, there's not enough right now to convict any of these people. So I'm just going to sit back and not look into this at all. I'm not going to investigate it. I'm not going to mention it on air. I'm not going to call any of these people. I'm just going to ignore it and act like you never called me. Harrison, if the answer to that question is yes, if you say that's what you would have done, you're a liar. You're absolutely lying. You're absolutely lying. That's not what you would have done. And I go one step further. If you would have been the one to get this call, Harrison, if you would have been the one to get this call on this story right here, on the Charlie Kirk story, you would have brought it to the public's attention. I guarantee you would have. I guarantee you would have. And so what did you want Candace to do? Prove the guy was where he said he was? She did. And it's subsequently come out that he actually was there. His son confirmed the police called him because he was on the fort on that morning. And so that's a piece of confirmation that Candace Owens didn't even have at the time, Harrison. So, like, even beyond what she was able to prove, they've gone on to prove. And so it is impossible for me, Harrison, to believe for half a second you would have sat on this story, not looked into it, not dug into it at all. Or if you did dig into it, you would have come across some aggrieved ex-wife or ex-girlfriend or some estranged son and said, well, I'm telling you what, this guy, he did some bad things 19 years ago. I'm probably going to ignore everything he said. I'm probably going to assume he didn't see anybody, because if he did that 19 years ago, you can only imagine he was lying. He's never told a truthful sentence about anyone or anything at any time ever since. So don't give me this BS about, I don't even understand why this is a story. I don't even understand why this is a story. It's a story, Harrison, and everybody, and Alex, and Evan, and everybody who's pushing back, Gary, Nate, no offense, Nate. It's a story because the guy identified specific people on Charlie Kirk's team. And we were later able to confirm that the rest of his story about being there adds up. He was able to prove he was there. He was at the building he claimed he went to. All of that adds up. And so you're left with a story that you're saying he told the truth about absolutely every part of it except two facts: seeing Brian Harpole and seeing Erica Kirk. Other than that, everything he said is true. Nonsense. It's a nonsensical position. Guys, that's why I opened this show the way I did. You people who are wanting to kill this story are just upset that you can't. You're upset that this story is getting away from you. And that's the fact. That's the reality. You're ready to move on. You've been activated. You are been told, get this story out of the way. Be done with this story. That's just a fact. That has to be the reality here. I'll blanket it with saying it's my opinion just for legal purposes, but that has to be the reality here. Because it is impossible for me to believe that you, Harrison, you, Alex, you, Evan, you, Morgan, you, any of you people are sitting there thinking, you know, this guy told the truth about everything. He told the truth about the building he was in. He told the truth about the police being there. He told the truth about where he stayed. He told the truth. He told the truth about every aspect of this story. But by goodness, when he looks and he says, I think I saw Brian Harpole, surely he was lying. So that's number one. That's the number one part. And I thought Candace, I'm going to play her answer in a second. I thought her answer was good, but I think she was trying to be friendly. I'm not. It is absolute BS if a single one of you people questioning the Mitch Snow story would have sat on it and buried it, all because you knew he had a domestic violence allegation 20 years ago. If you say that, you're lying. You are absolutely lying. You're not telling the truth. The truth is not in you. You sit on a throne of lies, to quote Elf. It is the season, after all. That's why it's important. It's important because if it's true, and everything else he said has been proven true, if it's true, everything else he said about that day, about the meeting and everything, if it's true, the consequences are so overwhelmingly deadly that they must be tracked down. If Brian Harpole was there, we must know who he was meeting with and why he was there. If Erica Kirk or Cabot Phillips was there, and I'm not saying any of these people were there, but if they were there, we must know why they were there. If there was a sitting congressman there, we need to know why. We must know why. That's why it's important. That's why it's important, Harrison. Here's her answer, a little different from mine.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with Baron Coleman. We must know why. What were they doing there? It's been confirmed they were there now. So what were they doing there? Okay, it's getting late. Good night.